Is it worth it to get a medical degree? Are doctors with medical degrees actually credible? Is that the only, way to get any kind of medical advice or guidance? Well, if you would have asked me this question a long time ago, I'm going to share a story with you, and I want you to decide for yourself. This question, without a doubt, I would have said, there's no way in a million years. Decades ago, I would have said, I'm not going to a doctor who doesn't have a degree. I'm not going to a doctor who's not board certified. I'm not going to a doctor who's not actually, gone through the rigors of becoming a professional board certified medical practitioner. I would have said there's no way. Well, I want to tell you a story, and I want you to decide. And I know there's a ton of stories out there that are just like mine. This right here, if you can see that right there, that is a scar that I have had since January 17th, 1991. I had a compound fracture. I remember the day vividly not only because it was the day my life changed forever, and the day that I had decades long of multiple surgeries. 95% of them were unnecessary. Multiple misdiagnoses. I remember the day vividly because it was the day that George Bush invaded Iraq. Not George W., not that guy. But the first one, his dad, George H. Herbert Walker Bush. 1991, January 17th. I had a compound fracture, a stupid kid. I think I was like 14, 15 years old. It was a bad accident, It was a bad accident. So I had to have pins in my arms. I had to have surgery. It was a compound fracture. It was awful. The doctor who worked on my arm, was supposed to be a renowned orthopedic surgeon. He told me, you're going to have full movement in your arm. It's going to take a while. It'll take like 12 months or 24 months. I can't remember. But it's going to take I can't even remember. It might have been less than that, like 6 months. And to this day, I can't extend this arm all the way. You can see there's a little bit of a difference. I can't go all the way back with this arm. To this day. This is 30 years ago. Over 30 years ago. My parents were worried, concerned because the movement wasn't coming back. I went back to see him after the time period was allotted, and he told me, let's go in there and do another surgery. I'll just go in there and I'll fix it. Don't worry, it'll be fine. Again, this was a trusted, highly, referred, highly decorated orthopedic surgeon. I got a funky feeling. I was just like, I don't know about this. So we got a second opinion. We got a third opinion. All of those opinions, I think we might have even gotten a fourth opinion, and they were all telling us I wouldn't do another surgery on this arm. So what are you telling me? Well, you got to go to physical therapy. You will get all your movement back, but you got to go to physical therapy. I did everything in the book. I did everything that medical science, I did everything that these medically trained, university trained, they went to medical school, they had all the right credentials, all the right degrees. I did everything they told me to do. It never came back. So eventually I had to move on with my life. And, I have to live my life. Fast forward 10 years. I get a strange abscess. Looks like a little pimple. It seemed harmless. It seemed innocuous. I kept popping it. It would go away, but then it kept coming back. I would pop it, go away, and it kept coming back. What the heck's going on here? And the fact that it was at the epicenter of the surgery scar, this thing wasn't going away on its own. So I went back to a different orthopedic surgeon. They did MRIs, CAT scan, etc. Oh, you have osteomyelitis. Now, if you don't know what osteomyelitis is, it is pretty much the most impossible infection. It's a bone infection. Basically, it's an infection of the bone. And because the bone is so lacking vascularity, essentially just blood flow, it's very, very hard to get rid of osteomyelitis. And the doctor told me, yeah, you got osteomyelitis, but it's something that we can fix. Take care of it. Well, I mean, I trusted medical science. I trusted the guy in the white coat, right? That's what you're supposed to do. I did the surgery. The doctor said everything went well. Again, and this was another renowned, highly recommended, whatever, orthopedic surgeon, okay? He said, yeah, I even scraped some of the bone. He's like, it looks perfect. It looks good. You're fine. So that was surgery number 2. Everything was fine, but then what happened? Fast forward, like 8-9 years, it came back. You can imagine, crestfallen, heartbroken. Like, I knew exactly what it was. I went back to that previous doctor, the doctor who did the first surgery on the infected bone, not the doctor who did the surgery on the fractured bone, the one who did on the infected bone. He said, relax. Let's take some scans and see what happens. Did an MRI, did a CAT scan. He said, oh, it's just a pimple. It's nothing. I'm like, oh, but doctor, it's in the same place. Well, the radiologist says it's not there. You don't have osteomyelitis. I was so traumatized that when he told me that it was nothing, when he told me it was a pimple, even though in my gut I knew that wasn't correct, I still felt a wave of relief because I just wanted to move on with my life. I just met my soon-to-be wife. We just started dating. This was really, really embarrassing. I was relieved. Months passed. This was spring, I think, of 2009. Months passed. It kept coming back. This time, when the pimple came back and the abscess popped, little chunks of bone, microscopic, very small, but I could feel them, were coming out as well. So you can imagine, my heart just sank. I'm like, they're going to have to chop off my arm. You start thinking, your mind starts racing in a billion different directions. So I did more research. I did more due diligence. I tried to find another so-called Harvard-schooled Ivy League, maybe not Harvard, he was Ivy League-schooled orthopedic surgeon. And they did the same tests. He did even more kind of meticulous and real kind of thorough testing, even tested for all different kind of cultures, etc. Nothing came back positive. But he said, I want to go ahead and do surgery and get rid of this thing for you. Maybe if I look inside the bone, I'll get a better chance. He says, this is the only way we're going to get rid of this so you can stop having this abscess reoccur. So I trusted this guy who was Ivy League trained and schooled. So surgery went well. When I woke up from surgery, there was another orthopedic surgeon there that was helping him. And he said, your bone looks beautiful. Doesn't look infected. It looks amazing. Okay. They said we took some cultures in there, so we took those to pathology or wherever they take it to test it. We took actual samples from inside your bone there, but everything looks perfect. Everything looks great. They sewed me up, yada yada yada. I was fine. Now, before this, the abscess kept coming back. It seemed like there was a pattern. It was like every 8 to 10 years. Well, guess what? This time it came back in less than 3 months. Less than 3 months. It came back. Can you imagine how I felt? It was beyond defeat. At this point, I just thought, my gosh, what am I going to do? I remember getting a call from that orthopedic surgeon, the most recent one, and him saying they found Staph aureus in your arm. I've never shared this story, so this is kind of bringing back all these emotions. It's really, forgive me if I sound a little bit shaky. I've never shared this story. I'll never forget it. He said, we need to take you to the hospital. We need to admit you today. So I did. I talked to the infectious disease doctor. Now this guy, holy macadamia nut, this guy was considered to be one of the best, not only in the state of California, but the best in the region, right? And he told me, he's like, yeah, we're going to pump you full of intravenous antibiotics. We're going to give you oral antibiotics. We're going to attack this with a full, he had this real articulate full frontal attack. It was like General Patton, like it made it sound like we're going to make sure we eradicate this once and for all. I was pumped so much full of antibiotics that I ended up contracting a horrific stomach virus, C. diff, which I don't know what the technical term is, but it's kind of coined as C. diff, C. difficile, something like that. You can tell me in the comments if you know. It was the worst pain I ever felt in my life, and I went to the ER at 3 a.m. because of all these antibiotics that they gave me. And they gave me a medicine. They said, we need to stop all the antibiotics. They gave me a medicine to get rid of the C. diff. It actually worked. But I was reticent to go back on the antibiotics, even though the doctor told me, the infectious disease doctor told me, we got to put you back on antibiotics. We got to get rid of this thing. I basically refused. I said, no, I'm not going to do it anymore. I've been doing it for a long time. I got this terrible stomach virus. I just don't have a good feeling that this is doing the job. I've done this before. I've done intravenous antibiotics before on prior surgeries. I don't think this is working. And by the way, I had to administer these myself. I had a PICC line in my, it was just hell. It was hell on wheels. I got on the phone with the infectious disease doctor to ask him some questions, and it got heated. To this day, I still can't believe this happened, but in all honesty, I really was upset and frustrated, but I didn't feel that this warranted the kind of response that I got from this infectious disease doctor. I was just extremely, extremely crestfallen, disheartened, deflated, dejected, depressed. And yeah, did I have a lot of questions? Maybe more than most other patients? Perhaps. But this infectious disease doctor, after a couple more questions, he actually yelled at me and said, you need to buck up. I've got patients with 10 times worse problems than you do, and I've got to get to them. And he yelled at me, a doctor yelling at his own patient. I didn't know what to do. At that point, I felt like it was over. I'm done. It's finished. I'm just going to have to accept this. This is just what's going to happen. Eventually, they're going to, I don't know, maybe they're going to have to get rid of my arm. I mean, all sorts of craziness. There is a God. I truly believe that. And thankfully, a miracle happened. My father found somebody on the internet who specialized. This was a specialist in musculoskeletal bone infections. I don't know how he found him. I don't know the power of the internet. I don't know how he found him. I don't know how we missed him. But I thank God probably every single day of my life that we found him. Dr. Sierney, who actually passed away not that long ago from pancreatic cancer. I love you to death. God rest you. You saved my life. This guy, and this is the real crux of this video, this guy told me, I'll never forget when we first went to see him, I was just a mountain of, incredulity. I was a mountain of skepticism. I was like, this guy's not going to help me, but I didn't have any other, options at that point. I just felt like I got to do something. And he did specialize in osteomyelitis. I remember my mom came with me. We were in the waiting room. There was a guy there, and he had a Walkman on, and he was kind of just chilling there. And it was just us two. It was my mom, me, and this guy. And he's kind of going like this, just bopping to music. He got some headphones on. He had his leg elevated. He had a cast on. And my mom, being the kind of brazen person she is, just said like, hey, have you been to this guy before? Have you been to Dr. Sierney before? He took off his headphones. He's like, excuse me? And my mom said, what do you think of this guy? Is this guy any good? My son, he's gone through multiple surgeries. And he looked at me, and then he looked at my mom, and he said, this guy is the absolute best in the world. He looked us both in the eye, and he said, I've had over 78 surgeries on my leg before coming to him. He's the only one that fixed me. I don't know what it was. I don't believe in coincidences. I do believe things happen for a reason. I don't think they have to be so heavy and dramatic, but I do think things happen for a reason. I do believe in the concept that prayers do get answered, and we turn to God, especially after this last incident with this infectious disease doctor and the fact that it came back so fast. And when I went and finally saw Dr. Cierney, I brought all my scans, I brought all my MRIs, I brought everything that from the previous doctors. He looked at it and he said, I know exactly where it is. I see it. And I said, well, what makes you an expert? I mean, all these other doctors, they said they can't even find it. They can't even see it. And this is what he said to me. This might be the crux of the whole matter. Not only was Dr. Cierney what you would call maybe the Mozart of bone infection surgeons, but he said something that absolutely to this day strikes a chill that goes up my back. He said to me, 90% of orthopedic surgeons don't know what healthy bone looks like. Excuse me? I beg your pardon? Say that again? 90% of orthopedic surgeons don't know what healthy bone looks like. There was a part of me that was so, felt so cheated, felt so connived, but another part of me that felt like complete acceptance, like I wasn't surprised one bit. Is it worth it to get a college medical degree? These are medically trained doctors, and they don't know what healthy bone looks like. You decide. I don't know. I'd love to hear from you. Suffice it to say, Dr. Cierney was my savior. It's been, knock on wood, it's been over 15 years, and everything's fine, no abscess. And I truly felt, after I had surgery with Dr. Cierney, I truly felt, by the way, his methodologies were different than all the previous doctors. All the previous doctors. I hope there's somebody out there picking up his mantle, because there's probably thousands, if not more, people just like me who've gone through the same exact, actually I know there is, as a matter of fact, that, think there's no hope when it comes to osteomyelitis. And I can't even imagine how that relates, on a macro level to other afflictions and other diseases. 90% of orthopedic surgeons don't know what healthy bone looks like. And I trusted him 1 billion%. So, do you need a medical degree to be a doctor? Is a medical degree worth it? I'd love to hear from you. My thought is, living in the era that we're living in now, living in the age that we're living in now, where technology, information, intelligence, education is literally at your fingertips, and you're able to accrue knowledge at such a rapid pace, such a voluminous scale now. I don't know. I'm not sure. I really genuinely don't know. My gut tells me no, but my heart says no, but my mind says it's still, I don't know. I was raised to believe that education was the key to success, that education was emblematic. A degree was a certificate. Graduating from some type of a learning facility is emblematic of credibility and true knowledge. So my heart tells me no, but my mind is still stuck in that past kind of way of looking at things. But it's getting close. It's getting close to my heart's assessment. I'd love to hear from you. What do you think of what I just said? What do you think of this story? What are your experiences? I love turning the comments section into a real beautiful exchange of ideas, thoughts, stories. I love to learn from you. I get inspired by you guys. I respond to all the comments personally. I would love to hear from you. So please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And I really look forward to hearing from you. Before you go, I also have another video that I did, which talks about how I really feel about education and how I feel about higher education, in particular in North America. Check that out right here. I guarantee you're going to get a lot of value from it, because I go really in depth on education as a whole. Check that out right here, and I'll see you over there.